Are you rethinking your purpose in life? Being centered in a strong spiritual connection is more important now than ever. Hi, I'm Bryn Blankinship, hypnotherapist, international instructor, and author. Each episode, along with Dr. Pat, I'll share my experiences with guiding spiritual regression clients into the afterlife and the soul lessons gained, prompting you to explore your own soul's journey and empowering you by shifting your perception of yourself and your place in this world. I want you to know that you're here by design, not by accident. You are not alone. You are loved. You are here on purpose for a purpose. When you stand in your truth and fulfill your purpose, you support others in fulfilling theirs. If this intrigues you, stay tuned in as we explore.
Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Dr. Pat, and I am so thrilled about co-hosting this fantastic show with Bryn, Afterlife Teacher. This is the kind of thing that I love to talk about because for somebody like me, you didn't know what you didn't know, and I still don't know. But what are the things that show up that make you a believer? We're going to talk about what that looks like, how it shows up, and how you can become more aware. Because number one, when you find out about a past life from somebody that knows nothing about you, that not able to Google you, your family, but when you find out about maybe just one past life and you start to hear about it, and then you look at where you are today, and in my case, you look at my relationship, my family's relationship with fire, and you hear some things that you think don't make sense. And then you realize, oh my gosh, my mom died in a fire. Well, I'm going to leave you right there because I'm not the expert, Bryn is. But there's something about being an afterlife teacher and the messages that we are meant to get. I want to say it. We are meant to get these. That helps us carve out the life we are meant to live. Bryn, it's so great to have you. Yahoo for this first show. Hello.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
I want to start.
Love talking about this topic.
Please talk about it because I think it has gotten so much of a bad press from different places. But I want to come out of the gate here and I want to just talk about, let's break it down for people about the energy of past life and past life regression. Now, I just gave everybody a little teaser, but then that leads to what you do, which is soul expression, spiritual regression. But the point is, I'm always shocked when I hear tapes or you go through an experience. It's so revealing, isn't it?
It's amazing what comes through. And, like what you said, there are clues around you all the time indicating past life influences. You may not be thinking about them, but when you're supposed to, it becomes more prominent. Some people are going to go through their entire life and not be aware of past lives, not have a session with a hypnotherapist or a regressionist, but that doesn't mean they're not living what they're supposed to and how they're meant to. And then in other lives, they have that awareness and they may seek out a session. So those clues like fire, that's a big trigger. If you died in a past life, then you may have a healthy respect for fire, or you may have a fear of fire. I was aware of a past life where I died in a fire and have worked through some of that, but it explains a lot as well.
Yeah, you're so right on track. I mean, in some of the shows, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but the idea of fire and me discovering later that my mom actually did die in a fire and some of the history about being burned in a fire. I mean, there are many, many stories that can come to bear. But part of this is, talking about what past life regression is and what it is that we gain from it and how it is such a curious experience to have. It's fantastic. It's actually transformative. I don't really quite understand anything else quite like it. And all you need to do is read the stories and see how people heal. Can you talk about that? Can you talk about how exploring our past gifts, how exploring this relates to where we are today, And then also what you've created to really extend the depth and the breadth of this in what you do.
Sure. So, um, so all right. So let me just say, some people can have a spontaneous, there's so much I want to say right now. Some people can have a spontaneous flash into a past life, right? You may visit a place, you might be on vacation and have a flash of deja vu, and I've been here before. You may have a dream that takes you into a past life, or you can go into a past life with a regressionist. So some people will come in out of a sense of curiosity. They're like, hey, I just want to know if I've had a past life. I just want to explore a past life, right? So that's fine. You can do that. But if you come to me or one of my students, because of how I do past life regression and soul expression, spiritual regression, we are going to do a therapeutic component. We're going to not only help you uncover the past life, but we're going to find out more about how that relates to your current life, any influences that it's impacting. So it could be holding you back or it could be pushing you forward, right? It doesn't always have to be a bad thing
Yeah.
to explore a past life, but most times a client is coming in for something negative that they want to clear from a
And
past
it, and I'm telling you, this is the deal. I mean, I knew early on that I was just not drawn to, fire. I have this love-hate relationship with it. I love it. I'm a fire sign. I mean, it's just an interesting relationship, but I've had to deal with this my whole life. And I got to tell you that the thing that helped me understand that there was a past life associated with this was how much fear I had. And I was part of a group that took young people through a spiritual vision questing experience for 9 months. And I was part of that for years. And when it came to the time to do the sweat lodge, right? And when they start to give out assignments, they always wanted to give me the fire tender. And I would always be like, no, not that. Give me the drum. Let me drum. And then I looked at it. Now, why is that important? Because there's a pathway to healing. There's something to heal. And Bryn, I want to ask you this. Let's talk about what happens when we remember the past lives and relate it to our current life. And it may not be what we think. It may not be that my affinity to fire or not to fire, in some people's eyes, is a game changer. However, carrying that fear, that is burdensome.
right. So that event, what you were speaking of, is triggering the past life event within you. And so having a session helps us to pinpoint where it started. Because within you, the deeper part of you stores everything. The highest self. Let me start with that. We're sitting here, but our soul and the main part of ourselves is there. And I'm going to say there on the other side, like up, right? And we're down here.
Yeah.
I just do that for reference. But the soul is connected to us. And we're down here living our lives. And so going in and connecting to that piece helps clear lifetimes of stuff in one session, because everything that is recorded in our records, in our memories that we have access to, we can go back to from this life, from childhood, everything. But let's just think about that. If you recall everything that's ever happened to you, just the things that have happened to you this week, times the number of years you've been on this planet, times every lifetime you've ever had, if you had that at the forefront of your brain and that was there all the time, that's a lot to carry. So these things are like they're in reserve for us to connect to as needed. And you're really just going to bring in the ones for the current life that you need.
Yeah.
Some of those other ones have already been lived. And then when we're working with a session, doing a session, I always think of it like we have all these browsers open on our computer screen. And as we're going in, clearing up pieces, it's closing those browsers. It's putting that to rest. So the fear of fire, like for me, that happened in the 1800s. Well, There were a couple of others too, now that I'm thinking of it, like being burned at the stake and stuff like that. Because if you were an herbalist, if someone accused you of being a witch, they just burned you. And
Yeah.
if you lived, then that proved that you were a witch. And if you died, well, oh well, you know? So like all these things carry through time. And then there's going to be that lifetime that you're going to explore that in more detail, right? And so we're speaking of fire. There, you know, the wildfires are happening out in California. They happen from time to time, but this is one of the worst. Well, this is the worst ever. They happen in other parts of the world. And so there's a connection, like that sparks something in all of us from our past lives that we've ever been involved in world events. And, you know, we're sending energy and we're sending light to them to support while they're in the throes of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that we're talking about this. We're going to take a very short break because when we come back, I would love for you to walk us through what we are discovering now and what is our clothing, what is what we wear, what is why every day do I get asked this question a lot. Why do you wear the necklace you wear? What's on that necklace, Pat? You wear it every day. Or the bracelet, why do you wear that gold bracelet every day? What is this? What do they represent to me? My jobs, my belief. What is my relationship with money? How does all of that relate to past lives? And when we come back, you're going to find out it does. And why is that important for you? Because if there are things that are not working out for you in life, we're going to introduce you to something that will get at the root, that will get at understanding, and that will somehow energetically does just incredible clearing so that somebody like me who goes through it can then become the fire tender at a sweat lodge. Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back with the host of this incredible show. You're listening to Afterlife Teacher. So many shows we're going to do. We'll open up phone lines. We'll do a whole lot of things, but this is about soul lessons, bringing you full circle. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, I want to welcome back. We are just warming up here. This is a show. You're going to get a dose of Afterlife Teacher Bryn Blankinship. You're going to get a dose, oh my gosh, on a regular basis. And so this is the time of revelation. Today, it's what do your past lives reveal about you? And, we just gave you a little breakdown of past lives and, of course, what Bryn does differently. Now, before we talk about that piece of jewelry or clothing that you just cannot get rid of, and we talk about what it says about you in past lives, how do people find out about you, Bryn, and how can they work with you and get your book?
They can find out about me through my website, brynblankinship.com. And my book, The Limitless Soul, it's available at all major outlets. It's available Amazon, that's it behind me.
There we go, back there. Yeah. So let's talk about this because we're starting to see now the idea of past lives. We see it in our pop culture, we see it in movies. But I want to talk to you about sort of the practicality or the practical nature of this. Like, how do the decisions we make, the colors we like, the clothing we wear, the jewelry how does any or all of that help shape us or give us insight into what a past life may be contributing?
So, all right, if I have a client that comes in that is afraid of standing out and being too flashy, it could go back to a past life where they did stand out and they wore flashy clothes, but it got them in trouble, right? So a lot of times I will have clients, female clients, who want to dress in more muted tones and they don't want to wear the jewelry and they don't want to draw attention to themselves because of either current life or past life relationships where being pretty got them in trouble, got them kidnapped, got them married off to some ogre of a person, right? And so they try to hide their beauty. Or they felt the trappings of all that and they don't want the makeup. They just want their natural beauty to show through and just be like, natural skin, natural hair, and really down to earth. So it's not that one is right or one is wrong. It's just you can find out about some of your past life influences that way. Some people are more luxurious. Some people are more frugal. Maybe they didn't have the luxury of money in the past life, and so they're spending money on things that make them happy now. Maybe they had money then, and they're being more cautious now because their money got taken away. They lost their money, and they're trying to make better choices than what they did in a past life. It's, they could be a
Yeah.
gypsy, they could be a vagabond, they could be a homebody, right? I have friends that are happier being at home. And then I like to pack up, and I was just in Bali. I've been to Fiji, Australia, like Scotland, Spain. I like to pack up and go, but I like to come home and cocoon in my home too.
Yeah.
I like some of the nice comforts of home versus being outside.
Yeah. And somebody was talking to me about the fact that I have such an affinity to music. I always have. And it's something as a kid that I didn't have a learning disability about. And I had other disabilities, like I couldn't read or I don't see words as words, I see them as images. Later on in life, that turns out to be an enormous gift if you're doing research because you can conceptualize. But I want to talk to you about this. I have a friend, when you see her dress, she looks contemporary, but she looks like she's from 100 years ago.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like she looks like that, but that's been her style. That has been her theme for like since I've known her, like black boots with weird socks or, long dresses. And is that something that would point to something from a past life? I mean, honestly, her whole life. I'm just saying.
That's an influence, shoes. I have an affinity for shoes. And sometimes my shoes they can look very like from a certain period in history, but that makes me love them even more. Like the little boots that lace up and little fringy boots and booties and that kind of thing. Which this reminds me of a client that I had. I was bringing him in to explore past life to help him work through some relationship issues. And instead of going to one past life, his guides, his spirit guides, showed him scenes, and like flipping a deck of cards, every scene was a different pair of footwear. And it was probably about 75 to 100 different pair of footwear, and each scene represented a lifetime. And, as that was happening, he started to become overwhelmed, tears, just tears of release. They were happening so fast, he couldn't even tell me anymore. But it was like boots and sandals and all these different footwear, male, female. So, that in itself was clearing, and his guides did it in one quantum session rather than an individual session to clear each one of those past lives. But it was helping. He knew in those lifetimes he had treated women poorly. And he knew that those were some of the things that were holding him back now. Because he did. We kind of knew him. Some of the practitioners in town knew of this person. And he was kind of dismissive. He would come in and have an open-hearted session and then kind of dismiss you. But it's because his heart was open and then he felt vulnerable, and he always chose women to do these sessions with, So that's just one indication. Now, you were talking about your jewelry. You might have an affinity to certain jewelry. You might just have one
Yes.
piece of jewelry that you always wear. You may not be able to wear jewelry. Like you might not be able to wear anything around your neck, right? Well, in a past life, if you were hung for cattle rustling, it might not feel comfortable to have like a necktie or a shirt that ties up to your neck,
Oh,
right? Or if it was a restrictive lifetime, if you were like part of royalty or in the military and you had the clothes that were that like a corset or those high neck collars, you might want to wear more of a boho type outfit and not have anything, restricting your neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
I
like it's
love
one thing. It can
It's
be,
not one thing. And I love this. I want to talk to you about this because there's a practitioner that people will work with. And I want them to understand that this is done in a safe and sound place. Now, Linda, for whatever reason, cannot wear silver around her neck.
hmm,
So what I say, okay, this is just silly me. I'm like, oh, dude, you were like a werewolf. So anyway, that's like my take on Linda. But you can see it almost to the point where she won't wear much jewelry at all because it's this incredible reaction to silver. I mean,
mhm,
it is like if you are watching a werewolf movie or something and you see that, but each of us has different things. So I want to talk
right.
about how you work with a practitioner, how this helps. And not everything is good or bad. You know, I get asked a lot when people see what I wear and they see the language on here. You know, they see the language. I don't know how well people can see it, but they see my gold bracelet and they see the language on it. They ask me if I'm Muslim. And I ask them, okay, I don't have anything on my head, but why are you asking me that? They said, because you're where you have Sanskrit language. I said, okay, I'm not quite sure the association. They said, why are you drawn to that? And I look at them and say, I have no idea why I'm drawn to Sanskrit or any of that. But this is what you discover with a practitioner. Take us through how a practitioner, especially the practitioners you train, your process.
Sure.
How does this work? Because people
And
want to feel safe, Bryn.
exactly, that's what this is about. It's putting something at rest, bringing some peace inside from something that was unsettled. But it's coming up to be balanced. I don't like to use the word heal. I like to use the word rebalancing by closing the browser on that thing that is keeping things out of balance, right? Because your body, your mind are constantly trying to rebalance given the circumstance. So if you're working on your own, you can have an awareness of a past life. But when you're working with a practitioner, that's an opportunity for the practitioner to come from their place of experience. So if you
Right,
have a flashback about a past life, then you are coming from your awareness, from your highest self, and tapping into that because your soul is sending you messages because it's now time to uncover this. However, you don't get the therapeutic component that you get when you're doing a session with a regressionist because the regressionist has experience from working with lots of different people, lots of different sessions. They know questions to ask and they're not you. So I can hear your session, I can hear it unfolding in the session time, and then I can come at it and ask different questions that you wouldn't know to ask, and with the help of your spirit guide to help to resolve that issue. Why are they showing this to you today? How is this going to help you to clear this up? Right? How has this been holding you back? And how is this going to move you forward now that we have an awareness of this thing that's not holding you back?
right, right. And sometimes it's also an understanding. Like, I'm a kid from the Bronx. I grew up in the projects, but I'll tell you from day one, my dad will tell you that my affinity for horses was unprecedented, you know, to the point where I was so brutal to my dad when I was younger that he got me horseback riding lessons at Van Cortlandt Park at 4 years old, 4 and 5, and you can't ride at that age. But my dad used to pay everybody off, so who knows? But the whole outfit. And Bryn, it was so strong that a day in December, December 11th, on my fifth birthday, on December 11th, he told me I couldn't go ride because it was minus blah, blah, blah below and something about it too cold. And I said, it's not too cold for the horses. You need, so he called the trainer, paid him off just to get me to climb up on the steps, my little beanie on, the whole deal, get on the horse and do nothing but walk around. I can still to this day hear the cobblestones. Now, that's an example. But what's underneath it? You know, you can't see the horse pictures in my background, But there are things that happen like that that give you additional insight that aren't always about pain, right? So I want to end the show today with a personal message from you about this, because that's not a fluke. That's not a mistake. I love horses today. I, I can't explain it, but tell us now in your closing message, what's the door that will open for us?
So everyone has a memory like that. Everyone has something that they're like, I can't explain it, but I've always loved. Like for me, it was Indians. My parents would bring me to the fairgrounds. I'd watch the Indians dance. I would cry because I wanted to go home with them, but I had to go home with my parents at 4 years old. I did book reports on Indians, Native Americans, my Girl Scout badges. We brought in the Pamunkey Indians. We learned dances. We made costumes. We made moccasins. Then, as an adult, I found out that my grandmother, the one that I never met, she was Native American. She actually had ties, lived on the reservation. She was Americanized, right?
Yeah.
But I had that influence, and she was the one guiding me. When I went into my first past lives, one of my first sessions, that's when I learned that it was my grandmother I hadn't met watching over me, guiding me to these things, but they're also from my past life.
Yeah.
I had many Native American past lives.
Well, this is what we're going to talk about in the many shows we do. Bryn, thank you so much for today. This is exciting. We're hopefully going to be able to do some really cool things on the show. Bryn Blankinship is the way you get a hold of Bryn, and much more to come. Bryn, thank you so much for opening up a door that has been longing for us to explore. Thank you so much for everything today.
Thank you.
All right, for all of you out there, more to come. Get your questions ready for the next show. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Afterlife Teacher, Soul Lessons bringing you full circle with Bryn Blankinship and Dr. Pat. Tune into Transformation Talk Radio, the third Wednesday of each month at 11:30 Pacific and 2:30 East Coast Time, for more discussions of the soul's journey across different lifetimes and soul lessons gained, helping you to consider the deeper reason you are here. Bryn shares her wisdom spanning 20 years of guiding spiritual regression clients into the afterlife and connecting them with their spiritual team and soul's purpose to bring them full circle, helping you gain insight into your own soul's purpose while supporting others in fulfilling theirs. Living in partnership with your soul, with less worry and greater trust, you can be in divine flow and thrive. For more information on becoming a certified hypnotherapist and regressionist and assisting with the global transformation taking place, visit brynblankinship.com.